I'm going to talk about geothermal energy for inclusive and sustainable development. My name is Mwakio Tole. I'm at Pwani University College in Kilifi. That's in the coast of Kenya. I'll talk about what geothermal energy is, then the prospects for Kenya, and the opportunities that this form of energy offers. Basically, geothermal energy is energy from the earth, from the depths of the earth. And the basic requirements are heat at fairly close depths. By close depths, we're talking about less than 4 kilometers depth. So you need a heat source, and you also need some water. Water can come from rain, which flows into the ground, and deep circulation gets heated and converted into steam. What do we use geothermal energy for? It can be used, mostly it has been used for electricity generation, but there are also other industrial applications of geothermal energy, which in Kenya we have not exploited, but have been exploited in other countries. This has been already covered, I think, by Mr. Mbeo. The installed electricity capacity in Kenya is about 1,430 megawatts of electricity. Peak demand is approximately 1,300 megawatts, and this is increasing at 8% per annum. And we can see that there is very little spare capacity, so that when there is an outage, if one plant has to shut down for maintenance or there's an emergency, then we get blackouts, which are very frequent in Kenya. The power sources, the electricity sources in Kenya are hydro, thermal, geothermal, which is about 13%, and then biogas has been talked about, and wind. Solar energy is way, way below. As Mr. Mbeo said, the large hydros are getting exhausted. We only have probable capacity in the mini hydros, the small hydros, but the large hydros, we have exhausted the capacity. Fossil fuels, we have used them, but they're expensive, they're polluting, and there is uncertainty in the pricing of fossil fuels. And so we need to focus more on the renewables, wind, solar, geothermal, and possibly ocean-derived resources. So geothermal in Kenya, it is estimated that there is potential for 7,000 megawatts of electricity. If you compare that with our installed capacity currently, it means then that we can generate electricity from geothermal energy for the next several years and meet all Kenya's electricity requirements. And although we have only been using electricity, we have only been using geothermal energy for electricity generation, electricity generation only uses about 30% of the energy that is contained in the hot steam. And when we have generated the power, the steam is still hot, or it's condensed into water, and that hot water can still be used for industrial applications. We are saying that geothermal energy is indigenous. We don't have to buy it. We don't have to use foreign currency to buy the geothermal energy. It has very few environmental impacts. I'll come back to that fact. For Kenya, it is the least cost energy alternative. It also has very high availability and high reliability. The geothermal energy has been generated in Kenya since 1981, and it has an availability factor of greater than 95%. In other words, once you put up your geothermal power station, it practically runs throughout. Very little maintenance is required for the system. For this reason, it is being used as the base load. In other words, it is the base load for electricity generation, and then other forms of energy come on board when to supplement the capacity. Another factor is that in Kenya, and not just in Kenya, but in the whole of Eastern Africa, along the Rift Valley, we have potential for geothermal energy. So this potential runs from Djibouti down to Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania. Next week, we have another meeting in Tanzania talking about geothermal energy for the region. So it's a resource that is available in the region quite widely. In Kenya, apart from the central part of the rift, we also have prospects outside the rift, in the coast, in Nyanza, Western, and also in Eastern Province. And we are saying that with those advantages that geothermal energy has, we can expand these opportunities by creating industrial parks, so that we don't just use geothermal for electricity generation, which uses only 30% of the energy, but the hot condensate can be used further for industrial heating. So any industries that require heat, okay, can be located in areas where there is geothermal energy. Can you imagine decongesting Nairobi by sending some industries to Naivasha, where there is cheaply available energy? Okay, that would do wonders to the traffic jams in Nairobi. Who would be the players in this? Government, obviously, has to be able to set the right policies. Geothermal electricity or geothermal energy has not been exploited over the years, primarily because of the risks involved. You don't see the geothermal energy on the surface like you do the hydro. So you have to use scientific methods to find out where the resource is located. The risks involve drilling to depths of 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. So this is quite a costly undertaking. So government needs to come on board and be able to absorb some of these upfront risks. And this is what the Kenya Geothermal Development Company is supposed to do, to undertake the high-risk exploration, so that they prove the resource, and then they can invite either private investors or even government subsidiary bodies to bid for a particular prospect. The private sector also needs to come in, and we already have some private investors who are interested in geothermal power development. All Power 4 Inc. Has been generating electricity in Olkaria for the last, well, since the year 2000, I think 2000, 2001, so 10 years. Geothermal energy also offers opportunities for funding from the Clean Development Mechanism, and All Power 4 Inc., the private company, is already benefiting from this. They get about $10 million every year in credits for a 48 megawatt power plant. So KenGen, which has I think 150 megawatts installed power plant, as far as I know, they have not yet tapped into this, although I understand they are looking into it. So it's a possibility to get funding from the CDM to do further work on exploration and generation. CO2 emissions from electricity generation. This is from the US. You can see the advantages of geothermal. 91 grams of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour. compared to 955 grams of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour. So a factor of 10. We did a similar study, I think in 1991 for Olkaria, and the figure is agreeing. There was a 10%. Geothermal energy produces 10% of the carbon dioxide emissions that you'd get from coal. I think that's all I have for you. Thank you very much.